Hey guys, if you're not aware, Netflix just released a new documentary called Casting JonBenet. It is a uniquely structured documentary that addresses topics related to the 20-year-old, unsolved, tragic case of the death of the beloved 6-year-old pageant queen, JonBenet Ramsey. If you didn't know, the case is still unsolved. The three most popular theories of the murderer are her mother, her brother, and an intruder. I haven't taken a poll, but if I had to guess, I think that the most common opinion is that her brother murdered her and the parents covered it up. The 2016 CBS documentary covers this theory in detail, but it's worth noting that the Ramsey family has sued some of the organizations that put together documentaries that implicate JonBenet's brother in the murder. So I was very interested to see how Netflix would approach this. I figured they would either support the intruder theory or stay fairly neutral. But Netflix chose a fairly unique approach that I had not considered. They basically did auditions for various roles for a dramatization. They interviewed these people during the casting and filmed what the actors probably assumed were just audition scenes. But those initial interviews and the audition scenes actually made up the majority of this Netflix documentary. With that footage, they lightly touched on the facts. Again, this Netflix production is not a whodunit. If that is what you're looking for, check out the video I did last month. I analyzed 6 other documentaries on JonBenet Ramsey. And if you are not familiar with this case or you want a refresher before watching the Netflix documentary, check out the description section of this video. I'll lay out the facts so that you can be prepped before watching this Netflix documentary. So let's review Casting JonBenet by Netflix. It was a solid production, and I do recommend it. But if you choose to watch it, beware, it's not a feel-good documentary. A 6-year-old girl was killed, and the case remains unsolved. And there's a hidden meaning to this documentary. Since they filmed a wide variety of people, we hear a wide variety of opinions. Their responses cover the entire spectrum, facts, opinions, and complete guesses that have zero evidence to substantiate them. Here is a great example from the documentary. They reenacted the scene where the father opens the door and finds JonBenet lying on the floor. Hats off to Netflix for not using one of the child actresses in this scene. They used a towel instead. I'm glad they didn't make us look at a girl playing dead. This topic is sad enough as it is, and on top of that, it was depressingly poetic in the sense that the world has lost this poor little girl. She should be alive, healthy, and happy right now, but the towel is a reminder that she's gone. We got to see 4 actors reenact this scene. The first one paused before he came in, approaching slowly, and didn't touch her body right away. We did not see the second actor approach, but he was very hands-on. The third approached quickly and was very expressive of his pain, and we saw the fourth back away from her body. He sat on the chair, quietly in despair. These 4 distinct reenactments remind us that we are all different, and we react to things differently. I think it is crucial that we remember this when we watch the real-life footage of her parents being interviewed, because it's very easy for us to cast judgment since they don't act the way we think we would have acted. But none of us were there. We will never truly know how we would have acted in their shoes because we've never been in their shoes. Here are words from John Ramsey in a separate documentary, quote, "I was as near to death as I could possibly be and still be alive. You can't function. People say, well, if it was me, I would have done this and that. Well, I couldn't. I was crushed in the full sense of the word." The second type of scene that I want to go over is the type where we do know how the parents acted in real life. You can go watch the real interviews that John and Patsy Ramsey gave to the media and the police. They are free on YouTube, and if the actors had done their homework, they would have reenacted those scenes the way it actually happened in real life. But some of them didn't do their homework. Their performances reflected that, and I'm not saying they were poor performances, they were all very good, they really were. They just weren't accurate to what actually happened in real life. Well, some of them weren't, some were spot on. But let's take a step back. In this documentary, we see these same people give their opinions about the murder. And as evidenced by their reenactments, we know that they don't have all the facts. And trust me, I'm not pointing fingers at them, I am no different than them, maybe worse. Last month, after watching the CBS documentary, I was confident that her brother killed her. Then I watched the documentary that the University of Colorado professor made, and I was convinced that an intruder did it. Then I rewatched the CBS documentary and I was swayed back to the brother. So the major takeaway from the process of creating that video that I did last month was that I realized how easily I could be persuaded to believe an incorrect theory. As I said in that video, I'm not proud of it and I'm trying to change. Speaking of change, I'll throw out a quote from my favorite dark elf, Drizzt Do'Urden. "Change is not always growth, but growth is often rooted in change." Let me point out one other powerful moment from the documentary. At one point, they have the actresses read a line from Patsy Ramsey's book as if they are Patsy Ramsey. But they also show us some outtakes where they express their opinions about Patsy. Their opinions, of course, are varied because people are different. But the coolest part was an outtake from one girl who commented on having previously read the book and not realized how narcissistic Patsy was. Think about that for a minute. She had previously read the book and thought about Patsy one way, and now in this audition, she reads a line and she's seeing Patsy as a narcissist for the first time. There are a couple explanations. Maybe she is taking the line out of context, the way many of us do when we watch the real-life interviews of parents and compare their behavior to what we think we would do in their shoes, even though we don't even know what happened 3 minutes before those interviews, let alone days, weeks, months, and years leading up to them. Another explanation as to why the actress is now seeing Patsy as a narcissist, even though she didn't the first time she read the book, is because the actress has changed. Not only are people different, but we ourselves are constantly changing. Here's one of my favorite quotes by Heraclitus. Quote, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he's not the same man." And here's a quote from Bill Curtis in the documentary that A&E did back in 2000, quote, "In court, the presumption of innocence prevails, but in public opinion, the presumption of guilt is stronger." Casting JonBenet ends with a very artistic sequence. I won't spoil it for you because I found it to be a very satisfying end to an open-ended documentary on an incredibly sad topic. And there's one thing I know for sure. We will all interpret the ending slightly differently, because we are all different.